From the Harold's Purple Crayon Treasury, Harold's ABC. Harold decided one evening to take a trip through the alphabet from A to Z. To go on any kind of trip, he had to leave home. He started with A for attic and left his yard, taking his purple crayon and the moon along. To get very far, he was going to need a lot of words. B is for books. He could find plenty of words in a pile of big books. He was ready for anything. Harold was always ready for something to eat, and C is for cake. He took a large cut of cake and ate it as he continued on his way. The cake made him thirsty, and he wanted a drink. Luckily, D is for drink. He drank right out of a dipper. He was eager to get on with his excursion. He visited an enormous edifice, the tallest building in the world. It went up and up, floor after floor, etc., etc. E is for etc. Elevators take people up and down big buildings, but Harold didn't like them. They made his stomach feel funny. He went up and over 100 stories in his own way. At the very top, Harold was surprised to see something higher than he was. It was only the next letter of the alphabet, flying from the roof. F is for flag. Now he had to get down. G is for giant. One happened to be passing by. Giants generally aren't so genial, but this one grinned when Harold landed on him. Harold explained he was in a hurry. The giant gently set him on the ground. He hastened along. H is for horse. One way to go fast is on horseback. Unfortunately, the horse didn't turn out to look much like a real horse. It made a rather good hobby horse, but a hobby horse doesn't go anywhere. Harold had to think of some other way to speed his trip. I is for idea. He went to work on the next letter with his purple crayon. J is for jet. In a jiffy, he had a speedy little jet plane ready to take off. Harold hopped into it and rocketed away. It overtook the next letter in no time. Harold jumped out and grabbed on, thinking hard of a word for it. K is for kite, flying on a string. Harold began to climb down the string. Suddenly, a quicker way of getting down struck Harold. L is for lightning. Struck lightning. Harold held tight to the purple crayon, going like a streak. He landed on a pair of tall peaks, high and lonely. M is for mountain. He looked for somebody to ask where these mountains were. N is for nobody. Off in the sky, he saw an orbiting object. It looked like a strange planet. O is for hours. Our Earth. The mountains were on the rim of the moon. He looked over the ridge at the side of the moon he had never seen. Down below him was the next letter of the alphabet. Taking aim, he jumped. P is for parachute, he said as he plunged to a plane on the far side of the moon, and suddenly he wondered how he could get back over the ridge of the mountains. Would he need a parachute on the moon, though? You know, with no gravity and all. He would have to ask the man in the moon, or the king, or whoever was in charge. Q was for queen. She was Urania, queen of the sky, she told Harold, who bowed. Only King Uranus could help Harold get home, she said, but the king was away. Far away, the queen said, across land and sea. Harold decided to ride there. Ours for a rhinoceros, roaming both land and water, but it was a slow, rough ride. And when Harold reached the sea, the next letter, he had a better idea. S is for sea serpent. Harold sailed across the moon ocean at a smooth, swift speed. He landed far away, looking for the king of the sky who was supposed to be there. T is for telescope. He set it up on a tripod. All he saw, though, was another letter. The queen had mentioned the king's name. Harold remembered it. U is for Uranus. He drew the king's attention. Get it? Drew the king's attention. Yeah, okay. And asked how to get back across the moon mountains. King Uranus and his ermine robe stood silent and majestic, considering the question. Then, with a kingly gesture, he waved Harold forward and onward. Harold trudged along toward another letter, way off in the distance. It was V for valley. He could go through it to the other side of the moon near the earth. 4 more letters and he would be through the whole alphabet. But the biggest letter of all barred his way. He tried to think of a word for it quickly. W is for witch, wicked and waiting. And it looked as if he would never get through. Harold nearly gave up, but then he saw the next letter right nearby. X is for Xing out. Harold had to X things out before, lots of times. It worked this time too. Witches are very susceptible to such treatment. He had so many marks, it was hard to get through them, but Harold managed. Magically, he found himself in a familiar garden with the moonlight high in the sky. Y is for yard, his own yard. He was home, and there was only 1 letter left. In his bedroom, as he dozed off, he made up a word. Z is for zzl, or little snore.